Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon, and finally my unboxing of Tiny Epic Dungeons. I feel like I may have been the last person on the list to receive their package, but it finally came. I was like tracking it through the mail, but they weren't giving me an expected delivery date, and it took like a week to get here. It went from like Georgia to New Jersey to Virginia, then finally to North Carolina. Anyways, it is here, and so we're going to take a look at all of this stuff. This is basically like an all-in pledge minus the satchel. I think that's the only thing I didn't go out and get. Could be wrong though. There might have been some stuff I passed on, but I really liked the idea of the game mat for this one to keep the kind of dungeon tiles in place, and the game mats for the individual players, and obviously the actual game and the boss Meeples. So first, let's take a look at the game mats, then we can set everything else up on top of it. Alright, so here is the game mat. Basically it's going to hold the dungeon tile, or give you a spot. It's not going to hold them in place, but helps keep your dungeon tiles organized, and also helps you remember that your dungeon should only go 3 in every direction, basically a 7x7 grid. You should never outgrow this game mat. Before we look at this in a little bit more detail, I just noticed this. This is the first time I've ever seen this, so a little shout out to Gamelyn Games. Look at this QR code. It's basically their picture, but it functions like a QR code. So I just thought that was pretty cool. I've never seen that before. Usually they all just look like that. Not nearly as fancy, but anyways, so yeah, I really like this. I mean, if it had stitched edging, I'd say it was darn near perfect. Really like the logo for their game compared to a lot of their games, but they do a great job. But so basically what you're seeing here is a spot for each of your cards, with like an area to say, okay, off to the side here is your discards for all of these, and then along the bottom here they have your various to keep track of. All right, this is the number 4 person you're fighting, the number 3 person you're fighting, the boss card there, and your tracker here, and your minion cards over here. I mean, basically there's just a place for everything, and everything in its place, and they even have kind of pre-printed that starting tile, which is always the stairs down into the dungeon, on the thing for you, so you technically don't even need that card anymore. So yeah, I'm really digging the mat. Let's now take a look at the player mats before we zoom in here on the tiny box, that I'm very surprised at that it is actually as small as it is. I mean, I know it's a tiny Epic game, but I'm still curious as to how they fit all those miniatures in that box. It definitely looks packed to the gills. So we basically have 4 mats, and they're each uniquely different, which is awesome. So yeah, there you go. There's the 4 player mats. Hopefully they lay out a little bit. I'm sure they will, but spots for your card, and you are sliding stuff up underneath them, so that's why you can kind of tell that the symbology here works, that it's like, oh yeah, I feel like I should be sliding these underneath there. So yeah, I guess these kind of hang out off the bottom, but I wouldn't want these too big. I'm already wondering how I'm going to fit all this neoprene on the table to begin with. But let's set these off to the side here, and we'll zoom in a little closer, and now we'll take a look at the actual game. All right, so here we have Tiny Epic Dungeons. For those of you not familiar with the game, it is in the Gamelyn Games Tiny Epic line, and I did check. This box is exactly the same as all of their other standard boxes for their Tiny Epic games, which is just ridiculous knowing that there's miniatures inside here. Now the miniatures are just for the heroes. The monsters are represented by cards, and then little, you saw them earlier, Meeples with 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just put the card underneath kind of the Meeple spot. But this is essentially exactly what you would think it is. It is a dungeon crawler built into the Tiny Epic universe. So it's very like simplified gameplay, very straightforward gameplay, but it can be a lot of depth in strategy, a lot of depth in easiness versus difficulty based on the bosses that you're fighting. There's a lot of characters, especially if you have the expansion. So a lot of different fighting techniques, things like that. A lot of asymmetrical characters, which makes the game lots of fun. So, like I said, I've heard lots of great things about this. And I've just been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for my copy. So, all right, we have our Adventures Manual. One of the things that Gamelyn Games has done for this game, and I didn't even check to see if they have some other ones, but Dized. You can download Dized onto your phone, D-I-Z-E-D, and get a tutorial and or a PDF version essentially of the manual. But you can play through a tutorial where it's like got voiceover and animation and everything like that, and it basically takes you through kind of like set up through playing the first couple rounds of the game. It works really well. So this is pretty typical for a Gamelyn Games game. The rule books obviously have to be a certain size, and there's a lot of words to fit in here. So there are some pictures, but they're small. This is exactly what I expected. There is this kind of fold out iconography guide. This probably is going to be the most in-depth heaviest of all of the Tiny Epic games. I mean, just look at all that iconography. But they at least thought of giving you this option there. So there's the user manual, pretty much what I expected. All right. So there is the miniatures. All in there just in a bag. So going to really need to figure out how we want to choose to store this up. Do we choose to store it up always as it is? Probably not if I plan on painting those little guys. So, all right. 3 different types of cards here. Okay. So, what we have here are 2 of the Meeples. I believe this is for deluxe edition content. So, I think this is for 2 of the minions that were added to the game as part of the deluxe edition. Yeah, so the potions and perils. Yes, 2 minion tokens. So we'll take a look at this all stuff here soon. But okay, so this is all potions and perils. I apologize. So what are we getting here with this little mini expansion? We're getting potion cards, additional goblins, minions, an extra dungeon card, 2 new bosses, and then 2 minion tokens. So the way the game works is essentially as you open up new rooms, there might be a goblin symbol. Basically all of your level 1 enemies are all goblins, but they are different, and there's various whole stack of cards, and here they're giving us 2 additional ones. And then shuffled in amongst the rooms are also going to be, I think, 3 rooms with minions. So these are like your level 2 monsters. They're going to be tougher to beat, and you have to find, I think it's at least 2 out of the 3 before you can even go get the boss. So 2 out of the 3 is going to get you the key, and so they've got their own unique tokens, where again the goblins are just 1 through 4. There's never going to be more than 4 goblins on the board at a time. And then this expansion adds potion cards. So let's take a look at the 2 bosses that come along with the game. So they call this game a 2-act gameplay. Essentially, going through the dungeon is Act 1, and then the boss fight is Act 2. They even have it set up so that it's like, you could store it away if you wanted to, and then just come back to just the boss fight. I'm blanking right now, but there's a game that came out recently that was like that, where it's basically like felt like 2 different types of games, but now I'm blanking on what that game is that I'm trying to think of. But here you can see basically, their health meters, certain things are going to happen as their health ticks down, but you also have to like move into this card represents like a little mini dungeon, and the deeper and deeper you can get, the more damage you can do to them. You can't even do damage to him until you get this far into his room. So again, the asymmetrical nature of The bosses is how we, what makes it fun. On here you can see that, for Act 1 to be completed in a 1 to 2 player game, you're going to have 2 hearts, aka 2 minions. In a 3 player game, 3, and a 4 player game, 4. So there you go. This is how you track which minions you defeated and whether or not you can unlock the door to the boss chamber. Alright, and so the last thing we have here is the couple goblin cards and some potion cards. Epic Muggo Ale, Witch's Brew, Bottle O Energy, and I feel like they just had a lot of fun making this game. They did not try and take themselves too seriously, and I feel like it shows. And this just looks like it's going to be a blast to play. A lot of fun. And here you can see the example of, a goblin. So 2 copies of Mixie the Goblin, who's going to be very different from the goblins in the base game. Then you have your Wraith minion, your Vampire Imp, and then your 1 special tile here. I guess this is where you need to go to get your potions. Okay, so that's the Potions and Perils expansion. I didn't necessarily mean to do that first, but it was on top. But that comes with the deluxe version of the game. If you're familiar with Gamelyn Games, they do sell those little mini expansions down the road. So don't feel like if you missed out on the Kickstarter, you're never going to get your hands on the potion cards. All right, so let's take a look at some of the wood here that comes in the game. So Gamelyn Games always does have some really nice wooden pieces. I forget what the actual name of these are, but these are like obstruction tokens, obstacle tokens, things like that you put down in a room, and you have to pass through. They're fine. They're not screen printed or anything, but that's okay. Most of the rest of this stuff is. So here you can see, here is basically how you represent which goblin you're fighting. So you're going to walk into a room, you're basically just going to draw a goblin and assign it a number. So you have goblins 1, 2, 3, or 4. The minions, however, each have a unique, I think this is one, I'm not sure. Each have a unique little Meeple here that is unique to them that you can go grab and bring to the table. So, and I'm perfectly fine with this. I honestly would have been fine. I still would have been excited about this game even if the heroes had been Meeples. The fact that they're little mini miniatures makes it awesome. But I'm perfectly fine with these not being miniatures. And then you have basically your, this kind of torch token that's your time tracker. Then you have these various, I forget what these are called, but I think these allow you to kind of jump back and forth between that starting space. Don't hold me to that instruction. This is your boss token for right now. And if you just get the base game, this is your boss token. But if you purchase the Boss Meeples expansion, you can see these are like epically larger Meeples. And there is one of them for each one of the bosses between the expansion, the little mini expansion, and the base game. So let's just go ahead and take a look at these now. So you can see they're very similar to the minions, but they're much bigger. So, we've got a dragon here and a troll. I don't even know what that is. Some kind of like crazy gnome in a robot suit. Some kind of winged devil. The classic Medusa character. This guy looks like he just came from the movie Monsters, Inc., but that's okay. Nice Hydra. Not quite sure what that is. Maybe a fox with wings or a Valkyrie or something. I don't know. I think that's all of them. I think I got them all up in front of the camera. But basically that's like a cosmetic add-on. But it allows you to have a more customized Meeple running around the board as opposed to this fellow, because you can actually leave the boss's lair and run back through the dungeon and have this thing chase you. So I thought it was worth it. If you were only ever just going to be on that game mat, then I would consider having a Meeple just sitting off to the side. Not worth it. But the fact that you can exit the lair and the boss will chase you around the dungeon did make this worth it for me, in my opinion. All right. And then last but not least, we have just our various other tokens here. Your heart and your lightning, basically your health and your kind of special energy. And then the gray hearts are for when you defeat a minion. You have to defeat so many to be able to unlock the boss's lair. And these are pretty typical Gamelyn Game size. They're pretty small, but they're fine. It is what it is. All right, so then we have some customized dice here. They have a nice marble finish to them. So the red one, if I can get the bag open, is for the monsters. And whatever you roll, this number that you roll is going to do various things depending on the boss, the scenario, whatever it may be. And then these are basically, you're going to have to be hitting skill checks where you have to reach a certain number. So maybe your skill check is 7 and you rolled a 6, 4, and a 3. Maybe this was your roll. That'd be a pretty good roll. And you're trying to beat sneak skill of 7. So you roll out these 3 dice and you're like, oh, well, I can get to 7 here and here. You could also get to 7 here and here, or here and here, but that might be overkill. So once you have gotten your skill met, your skill check met, you kind of have to remove these dice. But the ones that you didn't use, you get the bonus at the bottom. So in this case, I'd get to heal 1. Or say I was already full up on health, and so you're like, okay, I'm going to take 9 to meet my skill test. I can use this to gain 1 energy back. Or say the skill test was just a 6, and you're like, okay, well, I've got my 6. Now I'm gaining 2 energy. But as I'm doing this, I'm remembering the rules. You can only take 1 base number, and that can be any number. And then to add to it, the only things you can add are the plus ones. So +1 and +2. So keep that in mind. You could not do a 4 and a 3 to get to 7. So that's how these dice work. So I apologize for leading you astray just a little bit, but I did remember that the first number has to be any number. So you could start with a +2 as your base number. Your base number is 2. But then anything you add on to 2 has to have a plus next to it. So you could do this to get to 4. You could even do a bunch of +2s to get to 6. Or that gets you 5. But what you could not do is, like I stated earlier, combine like a 6 and a 4 to get to 10. So there's the dice. There's only 4 of them. They're going to be used a lot, but the maximum amount you're ever going to roll in a single skill check is 3. So you only get 3 plus the monster die. All right. These square cards basically make up the majority of the game content. All right, so let's start this way. You've got your dungeon tiles, which all are going to look like... No, that's something else. That's a spell. This is your first tile. This is your starting tile. Has the stair symbol on it. It's the one that's pre-printed on the mat here. There you go. Then you're going to have a whole bunch of dungeon tiles, which all look like this on the back. And these, you can see there's the boss's lair, so you could find the boss's lair really, I don't think early on, because you always shuffle it in like the bottom 6 cards, but you could find it and then wander away from it before you find the key and then have to come back to it. Kind of similar to Zelda feel, how sometimes you knew where the door was to the boss, but you still hadn't collected all of your stuff, and you'd have to backtrack and then come back to it. But Basically, I'm just going to kind of quickly go through these and, explain to you that there are these, various things that happen. Like, this is a skill check you have to pass, a swift skill check, or I'm not quite sure what the question mark means, but, fail condition, pass condition. So a lot of these obstacles are going to have these that you have to pass. And then, for example, this one is going to put a goblin. So when you flip over this one, you're going to find one of your goblins, flip it over, give it a number. Again, it looks like to open this chest, you're going to have to pass a strength test of 5. A fast check to open this one, but that's again after you have defeated the goblins, right? So, various things. You're always going to be using like 20 of the, all but 2 of them. So you're going to always be using most of these. But the expansion content does add to that a little bit. All right. So on top of those, you'll also be mixing in these minion cards. So remember, the minions are what you have to find and defeat a certain number of in order to get to the boss. So these have, actually have a health tracker on them, and they've got a lot more stats and everything with them. So again, these are all asymmetrical in their own nature. They all come with their own meeple. All right, and then you basically have a whole bunch of cards of stuff, spells and items and goblins. So the biggest stack here is the items. So basically this is going to be giving you, a range and a +1 on your die, or you can use it to give yourself an energy. But yeah, these are going to be magic talismans, weapons, things like that, probably armor, and these are what are going to sit on your player mat. You can see, like, this one takes a hand, this one takes a hand, this one uses up your chest slot. So very typical fantasy RPG dungeon crawler type stuff here. And really, I mean, already I'm thinking they could just continue coming out with packs of stuff like this. Minion card, just these cards. All the stuff that's on these cards. Just give me more cards, and I would be so happy to have so much stuff to play around with. So these are all the spells. Again, if you accomplish it, it looks like a skill test you have to pass. And if you accomplish it, you're going to be taking this away from the person you're attacking. Things like that. So. Or like this one, if you miss, you have to put a goblin out. So these are all the spells you can come across, and I think everybody can wield a spell. Everybody can wield an item. And here are some of the goblins. So just looking at them, knowing that there's going to be 4 in every game, these are all unique, but I'm already wishing that there were more. Stabby and Stabby, Boomy. Okay, and Pokey and Shooty. Huh, so there's not even, like, it really is only 4. So I guess you always come across Pokey, Shooty, Boomy, and Stabby? That's a little disappointing. I thought they were, like, a big stack of unique goblins, and it really didn't matter who you were taking on. Alright, let's now take a look at, these are mostly the boss cards and the hero cards, and this is your time tracker here. Is it double-sided? Yes. So depending on your player count, you're going to want to use a certain side, but basically your torch moves along here, slowly steps towards game over. You are constantly trying to push it back as you defeat enemies. Normally this would give you where you would place your goblin cards so you can remember, but since we have the game mat, we don't need this functionality. Alright, then you can see that every hero card has a little mini icon chart on the back of it, which is really nice. So basically, whichever heroes you're not using, pick one up and use the other side. So half orc barbarian, and you can see already right off the bat that these guys are all very asymmetrical. Like she's got 8 energy and 6 health. He's got 4 energy and 8 health. He's rolling 3 dice on a strength check. She's only rolling 1. She's got Seeking Bolt as her special thing. He's got Battle Rage as his special thing. So this is where I feel like the most enjoyment is going to come from the game, is playing, because these are just one-off scenarios. Or the core box is meant to be one-off scenarios. So you just kind of sit down, you pick 2 to 4 characters, and you just go through it. And you have some fun, and the next time you go through with somebody else. All right, so that's the heroes. And here are the bosses. So I believe the dragon is meant to be kind of the basic boss, the starting boss, the one they recommend you always start with. But then there is the Hydra, the Goblin King, the Pharaoh. Maybe that's one of the ones I couldn't remember when we were looking through the Meeples. Gorgon, aka Medusa, the Seer from Monsters Inc. I guess he does look like the creature from Arkham Horror 2. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. And back to the dragon. All right, so that is all of the cards. Last but not least, no, I did not forget about our Bag O miniatures here. So these are, obviously on the smaller side, but they're okay, really. They're sturdy. Like the plastic is hard. They've got some weight to them, which sometimes is a bad thing. But for the fact that they're this small, I'm kind of glad that they are have a little weight to them. The details are there. The details I would say are excellent for a mini this size. And so get you out a magnifying glass and paint these suckers up here. So it did all fit. These are probably a little smaller than I was expecting, just based on the sizes that they said it was going to be in the Kickstarter campaign. I thought they were going to be a little bit bigger, but I'm okay with these, to be honest with you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for the base game. Let's clear out some room and take a look at the Stories expansion, which will give you the ability to do a campaign. Okay, so here we have the Tiny Epic Dungeons Stories expansion. This is, again, their standard expansion size box, which is the same footprint but a lot skinnier. I know there are some miniatures in here, some more of everything, but also the ability to play through a mini campaign. So I forgot to even look at the inside of the other one, but here is the inside of this box. They always do a really nice job with the inside of the boxes. And there's the inside of the core box. My apologies for skipping over that. These make great dice trays, by the way, too. So the Adventures Storybook Prologue Expansion Overview. This expansion has 2 sections. Stories are additional objectives that the party must complete before they can defeat the boss, and the Epic Dungeon adds the challenge of 3 distinct dungeon levels, as well as multiple bosses. Stories can also be included, adding a more dire challenge. Whew. So basically it's like a 3-boss campaign. So not too totally bad. So I don't want to spoil anything here, but I don't think there's a lot of narrative in this one. Yeah. So basically it's like linking together 3 with some additional objectives, linking together 3 bosses. Alright, so we have a few additional hearts for minion tokens. Looks like we're going to get 2 minions and another boss. Not sure why we need another boss token. And these are the objective tokens here. Alright, some more miniatures. We'll take a look at those in a second. Alright, so here are just some of the examples of some of the objectives here. Like sacrifice a minion. Cut deck B of the dungeon deck in 2 halves and shuffle the arcane ritual room card into the top part. Place an objective token near the story card. And then this one says, when the arcane ritual room card is revealed, place the objective token on it. You must lure a minion into a ritual and kill it while it is on this card. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's perfectly fine. More than just trudge your way through the dungeon, killing everything. Rescue Adventures, A Dimensional Debt, The Golden Phoenix, Pyroteching Heist, Curse of the Goblin, Purify the Aquafire, and Scry into the Future. So that's the objectives that they were talking about, which kind of ramp up the difficulty of the game, because it kind of breaks the standard objectives. So here we have some more room tiles. I'm sure a lot of these go along with the objectives. For example, here is rescue the people. There's the Phoenix statue, Pyrotechnic Heist, Scry into the Future. Don't remember what that one is. I don't see where the one was we sacrifice a minion. Yeah, did I miss that one? Did I miss that card? I feel like I'm missing something here. Unless that's in the base game. Maybe that's just in the base game and we didn't pay attention to it. But that'll have to be something I check. Alright, so 2 new goblins. Love me some additional goblins. I'll probably just shuffle these in with the other ones. Mighty Goblin and Spelly Goblin. Where's the Smelly Goblin? That's in their next expansion. Alright, so we got some more items. Again, this is the kind of stuff I want to see. I want to be able to play and come across something new every time. And be like, ooh, what do Eyes the Viper do? Ooh, a dungeon mat. Perils kind of boring. And then we have 2 minions, the Golem and the Fire Elemental. So again, really just, I think they did a great job with this expansion because it just gives you a few things to change up the game a little bit, but doesn't really change the core rules. But then they basically just gave you more of everything that you would come to enjoy in the variety. So we have here's one of the bosses. This is the dwarf in the robot suit. And the Mind Lasher. Kind of looks like the Kraken. Okay, and that's it. So now we have the rest of these are going to be all new heroes, and these are some of my favorites from the campaign. So if you're all about the really fun characters, I definitely go after these guys. So the Elf Warlock with Life Steal, Clotho, the Human Psionic, everybody's favorite, how could you not love the Pandakin Brewmaster? So this guy literally can take damage to roll 2 additional dice. It's called his intoxication trait. His starting weapon or move is called Hair of the Dog. I mean, that's just hilarious. Laura Gambit, basically aka female Indiana Jones. Sir Gamelyn, who of course he's in all of their games in some form or fashion. He'll be fun to play with. Evelyn the Dryad Druid. Nilly the Songheart, you gotta have a bard character in there somewhere. And the Human Monk. Alright, last but not least, let's take a look at said miniatures. These are, the exact same quality as the other ones were. Here are 2 of my favorites, Sir Gamelyn and the Drunken Panda. You see his beer is sloshing out of his cup, but it appears to be going directly into his mouth because he is Jedi like that. This appears to be the Psionic Clotho and the Druid. The Bard, along with the Dark Elf Warlock. And last but not least, the Monk and the female Indie. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that is gonna do it. That is all of the content thus far for Tiny Epic Dungeons. I'm gonna look and see whether or not I left something off other than the satchel. I'm very curious, but very excited to get this to the table. Probably not gonna wait around to paint these minis, just because I don't want to wait that long. So keep an eye out very soon for a how to play video. If you're interested in learning how to play without waiting for me, you can go download the Dized app for free and check out their tutorial. You don't have to own the game to check out the tutorial, so go ahead and do that if you're looking to figure out whether this game is for you or not. But lots of great content here. Very excited about this one. If there are like specific characters or bosses you would like to see in a playthrough, please let me know in the comment section below, and we'll get those guys specifically to the table. Probably will just be a 2-player, 2-character playthrough. You have to play two-handed. You cannot just solo it, but we could go up as many as 4, but don't know if I have the space for that, so we'll see. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more content like this in the future, please consider subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.